Good afternoon. It's Pastor Ross. You may have heard that our governor has moved us into phase three. And if you remember, back in this late spring, early summer, maybe around June, we had a COVID task force working at Front Street that was to help us plan for when we would be able to resume in-person worship. And so we said that as soon as we went to phase three, we would be able to do that. And so it is my joy to tell you today that we are going to be resuming in-person worship, not this Sunday, but the following Sunday, October 11th. October 11th is the Sunday we will come back into the church for worship. I'm going to be sending out, or we will be sending out from the church, an email in a couple of different ways with guidelines and information that will help us to come back in a way that hopefully will help us to maintain a healthy congregation and the ability to keep coming back for in-person worship. I want to use this time to share some of that with you. It's a little bit long, but hopefully it won't be too strenuous on you to listen to this. I'm really just going to be sharing with you from the letter or the email that we're going to be sending out. So here we go. I'm just going to share with you from this letter. And let me begin by saying that while we know that many of you are excited about coming back to in-person worship, and I'll be excited to preach to people who are actually in the room, and Patrick will as well. We know that there are going to be others of you who want to continue with the online option, and that is fine. Everybody is on a different place in their comfort level, the continuum of comfort level with the coronavirus that we're experiencing. So please know that we will continue to stream the worship service. It will not be pre-recorded as we have been doing. It will be live streamed as it was before we left in-person worship back in March. We were already live streaming at that point. So just continue to, my suggestion would be to continue to go to the church's website, which is frontstreetumc.org, and click on that little graphic that says worship at home, and it will guide you to where you can find the live streamed worship service. These are the other plans that the COVID task force came up with back in May or June, as I said, and they are designed to help preserve the health of our congregation, hopefully, as I mentioned, allowing us to maintain in-person worship. We're going to begin with one worship service in the sanctuary at 11 o'clock. Once we're better able to get a handle on how many people are wanting to come back for in-person worship, that'll help us better assess the need for more than one worship service. And but we thought it would be better just to start simply. In order to minimize contact time, we are told by the CDC and others that if we are going to be inside, the proximity to other people and time spent in close proximity to other people are two things that we need to watch. So we're going to do everything we can to keep the worship service to about 45 minutes or so. The worship service is probably going to look a little bit different. We're trying to keep it as recognizable and as much the same as we can, while still maintaining the ability to abide by our guidelines. So it'll be about 45 minutes or so. And again, I probably don't have to say this, but I will. If you have a temperature, if you don't feel well, if you have a cough or a cold, or if you've been in contact with someone who has tested positive for COVID, we ask respectfully that you please stay home and watch the service online. And we look forward to seeing you in person when you feel better. We're going to ask that you please enter the building through the doors that are at the narthex of the sanctuary or the portico entrance that is there by the church office. Those are the doors that we are going to unlock for you to come into the building. We're trying to create an orderly traffic pattern into and out of the building so as to help maintain physical distancing. As you come into the church, in each one of those entrances, you will find a table there with hand sanitizer and masks if you have forgotten your mask. We're going to ask that while you are in the building, unless you are eating or drinking, which we're not offering any food or drink right now, we ask that you would keep your mask on as you're moving through the hallways, and that you would keep it on for the duration of the worship service. And please use the hand sanitizer as you find it. We will have bulletins for our worship service. The ushers or greeters will pass them out as you enter the worship space. They will be wearing gloves and pass those out. And we're asking that everybody enter the sanctuary through the main door in the narthex. The other door will be blocked off, and we're asked that everybody will go into and out of the sanctuary through that one door. As you get to the pews, you'll see that every other pew is blocked off. So please don't sit in those pews. And the pews that are available, we're asking that we maintain 6 feet between family units, whether you're an individual or a family of 2, 3, 4, whatever it is. Just make sure there's about 6 feet between your family units. Because the coronavirus, this particular one, is spread mainly through aerosols, through us breathing out and talking and things like that, we are not going to begin with congregational singing. We've taken the hymnals out, but we will have the hymns printed in the bulletin. And of course, Matt will be playing the hymns, and we can read the lyrics and gain a new appreciation as we look at the lyrics and the hymns with new eyes, the theology that's in our hymns. We most likely will not have a choir. Our music leadership is working toward having soloists or duets that will maintain distance by being up in the chancel area, away from the congregation. We won't have a children's sermon to try to avoid that close packing of children together. And at the end of the service, the ushers will dismiss us by rows, kind of like you may have experienced at a wedding or such, so as to keep us from bunching up in the aisle there in the sanctuary, to help us maintain some semblance of physical distancing. And of course, at the back of the sanctuary, at the narthex door, we won't be stopping to shake hands with whoever preached or whatever. But just know that we appreciate your prayers and your presence. We won't have a fellowship time in the Heritage Center as well. There will be we've talked with Marcy and the COVID Task Center. Initially, we're not planning on having a nursery. Families are invited to bring all their children into the worship service. It's a wonderful time for children to get used to worship. If there becomes a great need for a nursery, we will revisit that decision and make the decision keeping in mind the ability to keep little children apart and sanitize the area appropriately. But we do ask that initially, at least, you bring your children into worship with you. We are going to resume celebrating Holy Communion. Our first opportunity to do that will be on the first Sunday of November, which also happens to be All Saints Sunday. So we will not only on that first Sunday in November remember those who have passed since our last All Saints Sunday, but we will also celebrate Holy Communion together. We believe we've come up with a method that involves the least amount of contact possible, while still preserving our ability to have Holy Communion as we are gathered together. This is the starting point to our plan. Be assured that we will be constantly assessing and evaluating the whole situation, what's working well, what is not working well, and we will make improvements or changes as needed. We are grateful. This has been a long road since we stopped in-person worship in March. And as I've told some of you in conversation, I really thought that was going overboard when we decided not to have worship, in-person worship, for the last 3 Sundays in March. Had no idea that it was going to be into October before we would be able to come back. But here we are, and you have been patient. You have been praying for Pastor Patrick and for me as we have learned new skills, and the choir and the other music folks in the church have learned new skills on how to record things. We're grateful to our technical people headed by John Moran, who have helped us be able to do different things online than we knew how to do before. We've learned new skills. Some of our returning experience into in-person worship might look a bit different. But, you know, as much as we would like to go back to what we remember as normal, we know in our hearts that things are just going to be different. They're going to be a little different. The world is a little different always, and sometimes worship has to change as well, and be a little different than it used to be. I'm sure you've experienced different worship services throughout your life, and even worship at Front Street back in January and February is different than it was perhaps 25 or even 50 years ago. It has changed and morphed over time. We are striving to make the worship service look recognizable to you, and we hope that you will enjoy your worship experience. But most importantly, the Lord promises to be with us wherever we are gathered in His name for worship. He says, I will be there amongst you, in the midst of you. And so whether you are worshiping online at home, or whether you are gathered in the sanctuary in person, know that the Lord Jesus Christ is there, and we are privileged to be able to worship the Lord Jesus Christ wherever we are. And so, my brothers and sisters at Front Street, I am grateful for you, and grateful for the opportunity to worship with you. We look forward to seeing you online this Sunday, October the 4th. We have already recorded worship for this Sunday, but we look forward to seeing you as you feel comfortable in person on October 11th. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your Thursday as we head into the weekend. Blessings.